Hello and welcome. We are here to talk about our most improved players at the World Championship. And this could kind of go a few different ways. Before we get into it, I'm going to have 5 players. It's really 7. I'm cheating a little bit. But pause the video and let me know who your top 5 or even just top 3 most improved players were at this World Championship. The players that surprised you the most. And then throw it in the comments below. And then let's get into it. So, this is just going to be a talkathon. I didn't have any highlights planned or anything like that. I just didn't have time to collect them. But we're just going to talk about players that I thought did very well throughout the event. So, I'm going to start at number 5. Number 5, we have Lost. I feel like Lost on Furia had both good and bad, and that's why he's probably at number 5. I felt like on the offensive side of the ball, he was definitely probably the most impactful on his team. And I feel like when Fury does well, it really comes down to how Lost plays. I've talked about this way before where I thought Furia for a while would not be good. Like, I think it was Major 1. I was very concerned with Lost. Then Major 1, he actually had a very good tournament. And then Major 2, he kind of fell off a bit. Furia looked a little bit weaker. And then here, I felt like it was more... he looked pretty impactful. I felt like Yan was a little bit quiet from his normal major self or when he goes to international events. But I think Lost did pretty well. He did have some mistakes on the defensive side of the ball. Some were costly in some of those matches. So for that reason, I have him at number 5. But I was still impressed with what he showed. I just dropped my coin. My RLCS coin. I was still impressed with what he showed throughout the event, generally speaking. Number 4. I'm going to go with the entire team of Oxygen. This is why I'm cheating a little bit here. They all stepped up in different matches. They all had big goals. They all had huge defensive moments. Joyo's goal line save against Zen. Archie playing out of his mind as well throughout the whole thing. Oski hitting shots when he needed to. Obviously, Oxygen finished top 6. They're probably technically number 1 because they just improved so much from Major 2 where they were so incredibly flat at the Swiss to having literally no practice and then just showing up again in top 6. But I wanted to collectively give them all a part of this list because I did feel like, I was going to say maybe Archie was having a great tournament, but then I was like, but Joyo had some huge moments. Then Oski had some huge moments. I did feel like it was a full team effort, and all 3 players really popped off when they needed to make that top 6 run. So kudos to Oxygen for a fantastic story throughout that event. They're my number 4. My number 3... and this one we'll go a little bit deeper into the weeds of the stats and all that stuff, is I am going to go with Chicago. I guess at number 3. You know what? I'm going to move Chicago up. I'm going to move them up. So we'll save them. Save them for a little bit. Yeah, we're going to put Chicago at number 1. Let's do that. I was going to put them at number 3, but we'll skip them. We'll come back to it. Don't worry. All right. Number 3, actual number 3. I'm going to go with Fiber. Fiber really showed up. His Major 1 stats weren't amazing. 0.46 goals per game, 0.31 assists per game. At Worlds, slightly better. 0.5 goals per game, 0.6 assists per game. But he was really impactful on the field. Like, if you watch, had some very high-quality goals, high-quality assists, made multiple top plays. Would have made another top plays, but we used him for Telestrator, so I wanted to just keep it all for that reason. But Fiber was clutch. He was also benched in the OC region. So, I don't know. Like, technically, he could be number 1 as well. But I'm going to put him here at number 3. The Pioneers were not supposed to do anything. They were supposed to go home either 0-3 or 1-3, depending on their matches. But they did at least fight to that 2-3 round. Showed that OCE might have some stakes in that new last chance qualifier thing that we're going to do next year. If OC2 can keep up with OC1, at least get those 2 and 3s, there's a chance that they can get a 3rd team to the World Championship. So we'll see. And that's if it's the same region spots, which I'm assuming. But Fiber, fantastic tournament. Was very impressed with the aura. The aura was there. The bling was there. And Fiber was a lot of fun to watch. He even fell down on stage. Or not on stage, but as he was walking away. Which adds to the aura. It just adds to it. So Fiber, well done to him. Moving on. Number 2. And this is why so it's back and forth between these 3 players. But I'm going to go Torsos at number 2. I feel like Torsos has always been the support player that's like why is he here? And even when he's on the field, sometimes you're like, why is he on the best team in OC? And sometimes it's hard to tell. It's usually the off the ball plays or just how he plays the game. But this time he was also more impactful on the clutch moments when they needed to on the offensive side of the field. He was fantastic. In Major 1, he played 18 games, 6 goals in those at 0.33 goals per game. Assists per game of 0.39, so I assume that's 8, I think. Then in Major 2, 18 games again, 7 goals in those 18 games, so slightly better, 0.39 goals per game. Assists per game went up slightly as well to 0.44. Oh, sorry, so that would be 7 goals, yeah. And then that would be 8 assists. And then this Worlds was probably one of his best he's had. Probably, I feel like almost ever, maybe outside of Season 5. But internationally, his event was great. 0.68 goals per game. He doubled his goals in international lands in that event alone. In the first 2 majors, again, it was 18 games each. At Worlds, they played 1 extra game. So he did play 19 games, but 0.68 goals per game. Absolutely huge. Also upped his assists per game. Not by much, but 0.47 assists per game. He was doing a lot on the offensive side of the field, which you just don't see from Torsas anymore. Like, even if you were, like, doing any fantasy lineups or anything like that, Torsas is always, like, bottom of the barrel. Like, Major 1, with his numbers, he was second to last, tied in goals per game, was 0.33. And it wasn't much better at Major 2. He is just known for, like, he'll play the secure role, play good positioning, play some defense here and there, but, like, he's not really making those highlights, right? You never see highlights out of Torsas anymore. But the old man still got it. And he looked great throughout this tournament. I think it was power. It was probably their best shot at a top 8, but it's still so incredibly difficult. As OC as a whole, it's like what they really need to do, they need to learn to just start 0-2. Then they get their easy matchups, right? The ones that they're favorited in. They'll win the 0-2. Then in the 1-2, it'd probably be like if they can get a good matchup, like a team secret or something like that, then okay. It's not technically an upset. It's like 50-50. And then you pull the upset in round 5. That's what you got to do, Power. Not upset in round 1. If you're playing Swiss, upsets in round 1 don't really matter. You got to pull the upset in round 5. So we'll see if Power can get it done at some point. But both the OC teams slaying Gen G, the number 2 team in NA. So it was a job well done. And then I'm going to go number 1. I'm going to go Chicago. I had him at number 3. I couldn't decide. But Chicago, to me, looked like the best player on Space Station throughout this event. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was one of the harshest critics of him. Maybe not on air, but definitely when Space Station made this roster, I was like, Space Station, you have a chance to compete with the top 2 teams. And then they bring in Chicago, and I was like, all right, never mind. You're out of that conversation, right? You'll be the third best team, and I still thought they were going to be the third best team. I had them, I believe, power rank 3 going into the year. But it was just like, you're not going to compete at the world stage. You're not going to compete against the top 2 of NA. And while I think Space Station could have done more, they only did get top 8 yet again. It's still top 8 in the world. Top 8 in the world is pretty impressive. And they were definitely clearly a top 8 team in the world when you think about it across Major 2 and the World Finals. But Chicago looked like the best player on that team most of the time. Like LJ had his moments. Hoxer kind of played his quiet role that he does from time to time, just fine. But like, let's talk about Chi-Town here. We got 0.67 goals per game. Again, it doesn't sound that high, but that's only 0.5 off his regional stat, 0.72 goals per game, which regionally you should always have much higher numbers. You're playing a lot less good competition. His assists per game, 0.58, 0.60 assists per game were regionally. So again, he was only 0.02 off there. So he basically matched his regional numbers at the World Championship, which is amazing. Major 2 as well, he upped both his numbers. He upped his goals per game by 0.05. He upped his assists per game by 0.1, which is pretty good. Like all in all, but he was everywhere on the field. It felt like when Space Station was playing, it's like a lot of times you don't say his name that often. You normally are saying more the LJ and the Hoxers at times, but Chicago, well done throughout the tournament. I thought he was definitely the most improved player in terms of like going into this roster mania whenever this happens. Like before this event, I've been like, all right, Chicago's gonna fall to a bubble team or like a team that's like, I don't know, like 5th through 8th best, like in North America, very likely at best. But who knows? Like after this event, he looked like a top 4 contending player on that team. We'll see what all these rosters do. We'll probably do a future video about roster mania and like what I think is going to happen. But for now, most improved players, we'll run back down the list. We got Lost at number 5. Some defensive mistakes, but he looked great besides that. The entire Oxygen team at number 4. Number 3, we had Fiber from OCE. Number 2, we had Torsauce from OCE. And number 1, we have Chi-Town, Chicago. So yeah, that's going to do it for me. Let me know in the comments below who your most improved players were. What players had a really good tournament that went under the radar, maybe that I missed. And yeah, we'll talk about it down there. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.